So I was working and I applied to nursing school and I got accepted into nursing school actually because I thought that was going to be my career path. I didn't know how to contact agents. I didn't know about any professional leagues anywhere. But when I got recruited to go to Spain, like they messaged me in my DMs and I was like, this is for sure a scam. Like, what is this? There was pressure on because I was like, I'm moving across the world during COVID. I have no idea what to expect. Also, when I was in Serbia, for the first 3 months, I was with old college teammates, but then for the rest of the 7 months, I was living by myself. I was living alone in a foreign country. So I was like, this is such a huge risk. But if you're down for the adventure, I think it's totally worth it. So yeah, those 2 years were super important. And there's no way I could have just done that jump straight from college to playing in Mexico. Every game day I walk out and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so sick. A lot of people just like lose the fact that they're a professional player, and every year or every 5-month season, this league is growing. We're having more international players that are playing in World Cups, and there's more funding, more viewers. So our contract was still only 10 months. So we were playing and not getting paid. And that was really, really hard because there's no way you could pick up another job in the off season because there's essentially no off season. It's 2 weeks. Like my first season in Mexico, I started and played every single game in its entirety. And then the second season, I just kind of crashed and I did not do well. I realized that I had like chronic stress and anxiety, and that was really affecting my play. I had to really like crawl myself out of this hole. I'm really just kind of taking it one contract at a time, and I think like playing in the NWSL would for sure be an end goal of mine. I still have kind of an itch to play back in Europe. Everything has worked out so far, and I've ended up in places that I never thought I would end up in. And so I'm really just trying to be in the present moment for each contract and then let soccer kind of steer the wheel, because I know things are going well and I'm really excited for what the rest of 2024 brings.
Right, so let's kick things off on the Behind Closed Doors podcast. I'm joined by someone that I've not spoke to in quite a while, so I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. She's a former college athlete turned professional soccer player, and she's also got a game today. So Addy, thank you so much for being with us. How is everything, and how's your start to 2024 been so far?
Start to 2024 has been really good. I feel like I've just had a lot of realizations and started off with a really good mentality. We just started our season 2, and so yeah, things are going well, and I'm really excited for what the rest of 2024 brings.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
listen, I spoke with an ex-teammate of yours not so long back, actually, with Sarah, and
Mm-hmm.
we went through the podcast, and I kind of called her. We ended up having like a 40-minute conversation afterwards, and we went through the podcast. I asked kind of the niceties, about a career, and we kind of touched on all the major checkpoints. But what we decided at the end is that we're probably going to redo it because we want to share as much value as possible. And we ended up, like I said, talking afterwards for 40 minutes about
Mm-hmm.
all the things that people ask on a day-to-day basis and so on. So rather than kind of go over your career, I'm sure we'll touch on different points throughout the kind of questions that I'll ask. But let's talk about today, for example. So like we said, you're in game day. Okay. So you got a game at 6 p.m. today. What does that look like for a professional like yourself? Like take us through kind of start to finish for your day.
Yeah, game days are super important. I feel like throughout the day, just mentally preparing myself, like making sure that I'm doing, proper things to make myself concentrated. So I usually wake up and do a little bit of stretching, and then I'll do breath work. I've been super into meditation and breath work lately. And then after that, I'll have a good breakfast, and then maybe journal. And then if there's some games on, I'll watch some games and just kind of relax and chill. And then I definitely take my nap. My pregame nap is super important. Um, and then I try and just relax, be in the present moment, not try and think about the game too much. And then 2 hours before the game, when I'm in my car driving to the stadium, that's when I start like really visualizing the game, getting pumped up, listening to my music. And then obviously in the locker room with all my teammates. Instead of being like stressed and thinking about the game, I try and focus my energy on getting super excited and just looking at all my teammates and being like, hell yeah, like I'm here with all my girls. Like this is going to be so fun.
Mhm.
Just trying to channel a different energy and just be super grateful for every game day and every opportunity that I get to suit up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a day in the life of game day.
No, there's so much I want to ask you on that. I think the first question that I've got to ask, you mentioned music. I think
Mm-hmm.
music's such a powerful tool in terms of setting the tone and your mindset for the
Mm-hmm.
day, right? What's on the Addie Willett kind of game day playlist? What can we expect?
Oh man, a lot of hardcore dubstep.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, absolutely. And rap. We got rap. Yeah, anything that just kind of makes me want to like rip somebody's head off. That's what we got going on. That's like 2 hours before a game and in the locker room. It's funny because I put my headphones on and nobody really expects it, but I'm just like going so hard in my head. And I think only the people from Spain, they're the only ones that like really know
Yeah,
really know what's going on in my head.
amazing. You can
But
imagine
yeah,
everybody sat
that's
down.
the pregame.
Yeah, you can imagine everybody kind of sat
Mm-hmm.
next to each other in the locker room and having different kind of moods going on in each seat. But you mentioned something really interesting as well. Things like breath work and meditation, they're probably new introductions
Mm-hmm.
to your kind of daily routine. But I think one of the reasons that I've always found you so interesting as a player and why I'm not surprised in terms of the success that you've had is potentially because of the always looking for new ways to kind of better yourself and maybe get in better places and such. So talk to us about that, these little kind of things that you introduce into your, into your routine. Is that something that, again, is ever changing, or do you kind of have a set routine that you've had since kind of day one?
Well, I've just gotten into breath work and meditation probably a year ago.
Hmm.
I realized that I had like chronic stress and anxiety, and that was really affecting my play, really bringing down my confidence and everything. So I realized, things have to change. And I listened to a ton of podcasts, and breath work and meditation were just popping up everywhere. And so I was like, you know what, I need to give this a try. And so it kind of took me a while to figure out what types of meditations
Hmm.
really worked for me. And then I recently found breath work. And I think that for me just like helps release everything. And it's pretty hard. You're inhaling, exhaling at a rapid speed, and then you have to hold your breath at the top and then let everything out and then hold the breath at the bottom. And so you're really working your lungs as well. And I think pushing through those breath work exercises helps me mentally, like makes me more focused and concentrated and just releases all my stress. So that's why I kind of started getting into breath work, especially. And it's helped so much. I feel like I'm just so much calmer. I have way less anxiety. And on the pitch, I'm a lot more calmer too, a lot more present. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I think it's been so important in my game and just everyday life.
That's amazing, man. I think one thing I was listening also to kind of a podcast on a well-known sports psychologist, and I think you mentioned there kind of the mentality or the mindset that you've got to get in pre-game, and I think that's different for everyone, right? What would you if you had to describe your mental state, in on your best day, what characteristics would you display? You mentioned kind of the aggression in the music and so on, and knowing you, I know you're
Uh
quite
huh.
an aggressive player in terms you like to be dominant over the attackers and so on. So kind of what are the characteristics on your best day that you find you are when it comes to the mental side of things?
Yeah, it's such a balance because I have that side, but obviously I can't play like that 24/7. I have
Mm.
to bring in a calmer energy. And I think coming to Mexico, I've realized that. So being more calm on the ball and in that sense, just trying to be in flow, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Seeing the bigger picture and just playing with a lot of fun, so I think that's another type of energy that I try and bring in. And through that, that's where like my breath work and my meditation comes in. It like helps me relax because I have that like intensity that like I'm gonna slide tackle, I'm gonna do a diving header. I have that side of me. But then I also need to bring in like the leadership, you know, calm through the back, being that
Mhm.
leader on the field that people can just rely on.
Yeah, and I mean, Addy, you mentioned then kind of your routine that you're getting pumped, like looking at the locker room, and I can't say, from having worked with you and seeing you kind of at the kind of conception of your, if you want to call it your professional career, because you weren't right there yet
Mm-hmm.
in Spain, but you're on your way to achieving that, to now walking out, and I remember when you made the move from Serbia, right, that you went over there and just seeing you walk out in huge stadiums every week, right, and compete at like the highest possible level. I mean, for me, I was, psyched for you to see that, just having been kind of, a witness to your journey. Never mind you. Do you still have to pinch yourself that you're walking out and playing at such a high level into all these fantastic stadiums and facilities? Is that still a pinch me kind of moment for you?
Absolutely every day. Every game day I walk out and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so sick. And I think that's like so important too, because a lot of people just like lose the fact that they're a professional player and you get caught up in the politics and the team drama or whatever, you're not playing. Um, but yeah, that really just helps me take a step back, and no matter what's going on, no matter how the team's doing, what's going on, like yeah, I just am super, super grateful. And it's been such an awesome experience for sure. Something that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should be very, very proud. I think one of the other things that you mentioned that I want to touch on, and it was actually something that Sarah mentioned that she does as well, is kind of journaling and writing down thoughts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I've got for you, not only from that sense, but also, I noticed when you made the move after your time here in Spain, that you started like blog posting and things like that, right? And that's become a bit of a thing now, authenticallyaddyright.com. Big shout out to the
Mm-hmm.
to the page and stuff. But
Yeah.
give me
Shout
an idea of
out.
why that started, but also how important you think it is for players to kind of have other interests or pursue other things whilst they're playing at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that started when I moved to Serbia. I had started journaling when I was in Spain just because I thought the experience was so incredible. I didn't want to forget anything. So I just wrote everything down. And then when I was in Serbia, I was like, what? I think people could really benefit from what I'm learning playing abroad, because I didn't have anybody to look up to and see how they started playing abroad. So I thought, oh, maybe this could help people, or if like it doesn't help, maybe they're just interested in seeing how my life is. And then so when I was in Serbia, that's when I really started writing.
Mhm.
And also when I was in Serbia, I was for the first 3 months I was with old college teammates, but then for the rest of the 7 months I was living by myself. And so it was also a way for me to kind of just like talk because I was um, like we practiced in the afternoon, so a lot of the mornings I just had to myself, and I was living alone in a foreign country. So I was like, I'm just gonna, this is my way to just talk to the world too. And now like I haven't been as active on it, but like I do think I'm posting more things about meditation because I think it's such an important part in my life now. So I think
Mhm.
if it could help younger players, that would be awesome.
So there's two
Yeah.
questions as well. It's crazy how this is kind of linking up because I had this written down beforehand.
Uh-huh.
So the first one is you're talking about younger players kind of coming to you now and not necessarily having anybody before you that you knew or you could contact to ask
Hmm.
about their pathway and their journey and so on. Did you have many positive female role models growing up in the world of soccer, or was that kind of, you didn't have that growing up?
I definitely had older teammates that I really looked up to on all the teams that I played at. So like in high school, the senior girls, they really took me in under their wing. And then when I was a freshman in college, the seniors and juniors, they really motivated me. They were my best friends. And so those girls were in my like in my close circle, and they helped me out so much. But in terms of like professional players, like, obviously like there's Alex Morgan and all of the US women's national team that I really looked up to, but I didn't see that as like even possible for me to achieve,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So I needed like players that were in my circle that I looked up to, because I was like, okay, that's doable. I see what they're doing, I see how they're acting, and I can achieve that. So it's
Mhm.
more like smaller goals
Yeah.
and
And
role
talk to
models.
me about,
Hmm.
when those younger players kind of come to you and they're asking you about your journey and they're interested and whatnot, like what are some of the most common questions that you get asked? And let's maybe pick one and go into detail, because I'm sure from your experiences and your journey, you feel you can share so much value and so much knowledge that necessarily you didn't have when you were coming through. So what's one of the things that you are really keen on educating kind of younger players on?
Yeah, just what is it like living and playing abroad? Because that is such a different factor, like having to learn new languages and play with people who come from a completely different culture. And to that, I just say like go in and try and adapt and enjoy as much as possible. Like people, your teammates and coaches, they will appreciate so much if you just give the littlest effort to try and adapt to their style of play and culture and language. Pick up the words, try and communicate with them on the field in their language, and it just makes the experience so much better because you're learning so much about life in general. And yeah, I think that's the most beautiful part about playing abroad and being an international player.
Yeah. Do you know what? There is, and we always tend, it's like human nature, right? Especially when we're having conversations like this, to focus on kind of the most positive parts of the story and how, like you say, beautiful it can be meeting new people and new cultures and so on. But I want to talk to you about, like, let's take you back. You've just graduated from CSULA, right? You're now looking at playing. I want to talk about the pressures that are on you as like an athlete, because I'm sure a lot of people are saying, you've had a great college career, just kind of, be happy with that, get a job, go into the working world. And again, the opportunity that arises in Spain is not necessarily a jump from kind of where you are to where you want to get to. It's almost like a stepping stone in between that, right? You're going
Mm-hmm.
into a semi-professional environment. You're not earning a wage, out of college, where I presume you picked up, loans or whatever the case may be. College is expensive. So talk to me a little bit about the pressures that are on, especially female athletes as well, once they finish their collegiate careers, to kind of put soccer behind them. And was that a factor for you, or was it a case of I'm pursuing this kind of yes or yes?
Yeah, that was definitely a factor. So I was working and I applied to nursing school and I got accepted into nursing school actually because I thought that was going to be my career path. But every day I always thought about like continue playing, and I talked to my college coaches and they're like, yeah, you're definitely good enough to like keep going and keep pursuing. But I had no idea how to even do that. Like I didn't know how to contact agents. I didn't know about any professional leagues anywhere. I just knew about the um, NWSL, and I was like, there's no way like I can just get into that.
Yeah.
Um, and so when I got recruited to go to Spain, like they messaged me in my DMs and I was like, this is for sure a scam. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, this is way too good to be true. But I kind of just was like, there's really nothing to lose. Like it's COVID. I might as well just give it a 3-month shot and see what comes of it. And I mean, it definitely, there was pressure on because I was like, I'm moving across the world during COVID. I have no idea what to expect, but you just kind of have to have an open mind. And I mean, it's tough for women, especially because the wages are so low and it's
Mhm.
so hard to make a living. And so I think that's what really turns these incredible players off from pursuing a professional career, just because the getting it started is so incredibly difficult. And a lot of times you do have to go to these foreign countries where, it's such a huge risk. But if you're down for the adventure, I think it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you have to have a certain personality and just being willing to accept whatever is, and yeah, just accept adventure.
I think that's what Sarah said as well. She said you have to be willing to kind of step into the unknown almost, and not have all the answers, and
Exactly.
and know what's going to happen. Do you ever think back, Addy, to what life would have been like if you'd not done that, or is that kind of you so glad that it turned out the way it did?
I've never thought about that actually. I don't really want to.
Yeah.
It's been such an incredible experience. Such a cool I think it's been 4 years now since Spain, or yeah, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, 100%. I think like there's key points in your life where you kind of make a decision and it turns you in one path or another, and it's fortunate that you're in the
Hmm.
position you're in now to see that that's kind of paid off, and so to speak. But there'll be so many people, I imagine, that are in your shoes that have maybe, if you want to call it, played it safe and maybe done what is kind of easy or the easier option at the time and such. But like you said, the fruits of that are huge. So you mentioned there about the wage structure as well, because this is something that I'm passionate about educating players on as well. There's a lot of players now, and even more so because I think it's becoming more common for players to kind of make that step after college, or to at least try to pursue opportunities wherever it be around the world. But a lot of players don't understand. They say, I want to go pro, right? I want to go pro in Europe. But what does that actually look like? So can you just walk us through from your time in Serbia, or maybe even your time in Spain also, and even now in Mexico? You mentioned things like wages, and the women's game is getting bigger and bigger each year, and it's growing, but it's still not kind of not where it needs to be, but it's not there yet where you're walking into $1 million contracts and things like that. So talk to us about the realities of being a professional.
Yeah, the realities are, I mean, you kind of just make enough to live in the country wherever you're living in. And, for me, I've been lucky enough that in all those places, like it's been enough for me to kind of just survive there and do a little bit of traveling. But like in terms of like saving or, it's really difficult to do that. So a lot of the times, like when I do come home, I have to work, and a lot of these contracts are only 10 months. And so you have those 2 months where you're not getting paid. So you really kind of have to find extra jobs, and it's tough. Or while you're in a different country too, trying to find something that's online in order to supplement an extra income is pretty important. But it is growing, and players are getting paid more and more every year, which is a really good sign.
Is that the case even for
But
you
it's
now,
tough.
Addy? Are you still kind of, obviously you mentioned working in kind of the off season and so on during the season? Are you treating it like what are you treated like a full on professional in terms of this is your only occupation, or are you picking up other things alongside that as well?
Well, so originally we play 10 months out of the year. We
Hmm.
played 2 seasons, both 5 months. And originally, when I first got here, my first year, even though we had to come back for preseason, so we're playing essentially year round. Like
Hmm.
we only have 2 weeks off in between each season.
Hmm.
Our contract was still only 10 months. So we were playing and not getting paid. And that was really, really hard because there's no way you could pick up another job in the off season because there's essentially no off season. It's 2 weeks. So that was super tough. But then they changed it. So now it's a 12-month long contract, which is really nice. So on our breaks, we do get paid,
Amazing.
thankfully.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. And
So
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, right now I don't have to do an extra job. I would like to, just because I would like more money, but thankfully it's not completely necessary.
Yeah, 100%. And like going back to that as well, it really brings into question like how much you want to be a pro, right? And the reason say that is because, like yourself, you graduated with a degree in what from CSULA?
Child development and family studies.
Okay, amazing. So you're probably walking into a job there out of college, and even you were considering nursing school as well and whatnot. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean? That you have to balance that versus kind of just getting by and just making enough to kind of do what you love and so on. And that's not for everybody, right? But I think again,
Mhm.
it's amazing to see what is happening now. And I think, like you said, you'll be as you go through the years, you can kind of visually see that difference. Is that the case in Mexico? Can you see things kind of changing positively towards women's soccer?
Yeah, absolutely. Every year or every 5 month season, this league is growing. We're having more international players that are playing in World Cups, and there's more funding, more viewers. So it's been a positive growth every single 5 months, honestly. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, and talk to me, Eddie, like with your experience now, having played in Europe, having played in Mexico, and obviously growing up in the US and playing collegiate soccer in the US. What do you think? Do you think the US Federation should kind of take note of what others are doing in terms of the development or in terms of how the system works? Is there any changes that you would make, or you kind of do you think it's a working system the way it is?
Well, I think the club system it's really sad because it is so incredibly expensive. And so parents are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for their kids to be in these top clubs. And I think now it's kind of shifted the mindset. And kids, like, I mean, growing up, I played 3 sports and it was so much fun. And now, you know, kids, they're put into soccer at 4 years old into these top clubs, and like, you know, they're investing thousands of dollars. So I think that might burn kids out a lot faster and kind of take the love away because there's so much pressure. And I know in Europe, you know, these, or I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars in order to play when you're younger. I don't think it's like
No.
that. So I think, you know, that side of soccer in America is not the way to go, but I
Yeah.
don't really know how to change that.
I think the big difference here in Europe as well, which you've kind of experienced firsthand, is the kind of how semi-professional soccer works here as well, with kind of promotion, relegation, and so on, right? For example, when you first came to Spain, you were playing, and we have to remember this, right? Because like we look back at that team and where everybody is now, and people have achieved extraordinary things, and we were kind of at the lowest level of soccer in Spain, right? And that's incredible to look at,
Hmm.
but the ability to kind of build and get promoted. I mean, we went to the semi-finals that year, and I'll never forget that game where, you know, we lost 1-0 to kind of Granada and whatnot. I'm
Yeah,
sure it still feels
so sad.
but yeah, so like I think again that ability to not have to go from college to the NWSL and have somewhere in between, and now the USL are introducing different leagues and so on, and I hope it can grow there. But there's some players that are not kind of ready to make that jump straight out of college, and even yourself, you know, you had, I would say, would you say 2 years to really prepare for this opportunity now, which I assume is kind of the highest level of soccer that you've ever played at?
Mhm. Yeah, sorry, you said, like, what have I done in those 2 years to kind of mentally prepare myself?
What
Or
I guess the question is do you think you would have been ready to make that jump straight to the level that you're at now out of college, or do you think you needed those 2 years to kind of work your way up the system to prepare yourself for an opportunity like that?
no, I definitely needed these 2 years playing in Spain and playing in Serbia in order to be ready for this level, definitely. I think it taught me a lot about, first of all, playing abroad and, you know, learning a new language and how to easily adapt to, or more adapt to a different style of play and different players and different mentalities, and creating a different mindset and shifting to a more confident mindset. So yeah, those 2 years were super important, and there's no way I could have just done that jump straight from college to playing in Mexico.
So just, I know you wrote a blog on this actually, so I want you just to bullet point it quickly. So talk to me about the differences from college soccer in the US, your experiences in Spain, Serbia, and Mexico in terms of stylistically. You mentioned you had to change and adapt. Like, how did that look from your standpoint?
Yeah, it was definitely hard because in college, I, you know, long balls were it was kind of kick and go sometimes, but defensively super aggressive, very organized, um, and yeah, our coach, he was a defensive coach, and so we knew how to defend any team like the back of our hands, or like the back of the hand. And then in Spain, it's a lot more creative and passing, and it was super fun playing in that style. And then in Serbia, it was like a little bit mixture of both. So we focused a lot on passing, but we also did a lot of long balls as well. And it wasn't as organized defensively. So that was a little hard to adjust to. And then here in Mexico, um, the mentality is a little bit different in terms of it's, let's see, it's not as intense and hard as the US, but it's still such a high level, and it is growing. And so now we're kind of forming into possible and find that way to break through the defense and slip those balls through. And we play in so many different formations. I think in Spain it was 4-3-3 always with,
Yeah,
you know, a triangle in the middle. And
yeah.
in Spain, I mean, here in Mexico, we play 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 4-3-3, it's completely different every game basically. So just having to learn to adjust to those different types of formations has been super important as well. Yeah, it's been completely different every single
I can,
country. It's
yeah, and
really
sometimes,
interesting.
yeah, and sometimes it's not the easiest to kind of identify that until till afterwards, right? As well, and you kind of just adapt naturally to your environment as well. So, talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about speaking with Sarah as well, obviously she's playing in the A League, and I know I keep referencing it, but I want to see the similarities
Mm-hmm.
and differences in terms of opinions and so on. So, yourself, have you experienced a little bit of, it's difficult to get there in terms of to the top level in any country or the top division, but it's even almost equally as difficult to kind of stay there. And what I mean by that is players sometimes get these opportunities. And like I said, whether it comes too early or, they're not quite ready for that step yet, have you had to kind of challenge yourself to stay at that level once you've kind of reached it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think a hard challenge is just the lifestyle. I mean, we play, like I said, 10 months out of the year.
Mhm.
And so you kind of see like, your family, they're going on vacation, your friends, they're doing their thing. So it's hard to kind of see that and you think like the grass is always greener.
Mhm.
And so you're like, oh, is this really what I want to do? At least that's for me. That's what's been kind of happening because you're missing out on a lot. And so in order to like kind of be mentally checked in for 10 months out of the year, it's tough.
Even more so, right? Not
And
just the 10, but like even in the off season, you can't just go out and
exactly,
party and let yourself go because, like you say, you get the 2 week break and then you're back in for pre-season.
exactly. So I think that's the hardest part. And um, but like practicing gratitude and just being so thankful for every day and realizing, this is such a short career and I want to enjoy the most out of it. Like I'll always have time after to, you know, go snowboarding or do all those other fun things that I really like to do. I can't do that now, but I will eventually be able to do it. But yeah, that's definitely hard part is just being locked in for, so many months of the year and just kind of seeing what other people got going on in their lives and comparing like, what could be if I
Absolutely.
wasn't playing.
So, Addy, from that, taking that point, then you're 26 now, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're in your second year in
Mm-hmm.
terms of Mexico. Like, what goals kind of do you have for yourself for the future? Is there, a little bit of something inside you that says you'd love to get to the States, into the NWSL? Is there any kind of ticks that you've still got on your list that you want to achieve before you kind of call it a day?
Yeah, there's so many there's so many places I want to live and travel to and play in, but I think like playing in the NWSL would for sure be an end goal of mine. I still have kind of an itch to play back in Europe or maybe in like Japan, like what Trista did. But I'm really just kind of taking it one contract at a time, and everything has worked out so far. And I've ended up in places that I never thought I would end up in, and so I'm really just trying to be in the present moment for each contract, and then let soccer kind of steer the wheel because I know something incredible will pop up once this is done, or maybe I'll resign after my contract is done. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I just want to keep improving every year and getting paid more every year, and yeah, just grow as a human and player. Those are kind of my goals.
You know what? You bring up a really important point there, and it's the fact that a lot of contracts professionally in terms of the women's game are done on a yearly basis, right? You don't get the luxury of having 3 to 4 year contracts like you see on the men's side and so on. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
it has some positives in the fact of it opens you up to new experiences and you can kind of look at your options after a year and so on. But there's also not that security of saying, if I get a big injury or if this happens, whatever the case may be, you've not got that safety blanket on top of you. So I guess that in itself keeps you on your toes, right? In terms of knowing that you have to perform every single. Just because you were good last year doesn't mean this year you can just go and take your foot off the gas, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've definitely come to realize that because because we played the 2 seasons each season, even though there's only like a 2-week break, it is so incredibly different each season.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like my first season in Mexico, I started and played every single game in its entirety. And then the second season, I just kind of crashed and I did not do well. I started maybe like 6 of the games and had to really like crawl myself out of this hole. And then last season did a lot better, and then this season we'll kind of see how it goes. But yeah, it's just such a roller coaster, and so not having that security of like a 3-year contract is it does bring a little bit more stress, but it's also just, I don't know, it's part of the process, and it makes you a little bit more mentally stronger because you kind of just have to push through and give it your best.
Yeah, but listening to you now, I'm sure like in terms of this season, it sounds really positive, and it sounds like you kind of got a really good mindset in terms of ahead of this, really positive and full of good energy, which I think will hopefully translate on the pitch and so on. But I've got to ask you, because we've mentioned it a few times. So during your time in Spain, when you look back, bear in mind this is the first year of the program launched at FC Malaga City. You're in the lowest tier of Spanish football, but we look at that team, kind of rewind it back and what players have gone on to achieve. So there's obviously yourself that's now playing in the top league in Mexico. You've obviously got Trista that's been to kind of Japan. She's been to Greece. She's in Turkey now, I think. Sarah that's playing in the A League, in the top league in Australia. You've got, I think, Rosie that's still playing in the UK. She signed for West Brom. You've got Margot that signed, I think it is in the Czech Republic, and so on.
Czech Republic, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody I've missed off that list as well? I've probably missed somebody. And
I think Maddie Klein, she's playing in Rome for kind of like a study abroad program, something
yeah,
like that. I think I've seen that.
Maddie also. And I think there'll be, do you know who actually contacted me the other day, which I'll give a shout out to, is Jacinta as well. So that kind of group.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to call her. She contacted me too. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
But just give me a quick synopsis or a quick summary in terms of your time here in Spain, because I assume from the way that you talk about it that it still sits very fondly with you in terms of the memories and so on. So give me a quick overview of kind of your experience the whole in Spain.
Oh my gosh, it was just such a blast. So I only signed for 3 months initially because I was like, we'll see what happens. And then after getting there and being with all the girls, I was like, there's no way I can leave after 3 months. Like I have to stay for the full 10 months. But yeah, it was just honestly a dream come true, getting to wake up in that villa and with all my teammates who we became like a family. And then going to practice and having good practices, then going to the CrossFit gym in Nerja, and then going and hanging out at the beach, laying by the pool. It was honestly the dream life. And then traveling and getting to see all those really incredible places and cities in our off days. We really made the absolute most of those 10 months, and we still all keep in contact when we can. And we haven't gotten the whole group together, and it will happen, but like, we've been able to see like a Trista. I saw Maddie Mag, so I'm really happy that I'm still able to see them, and I hope I can see the rest of the girls sometime soon too.
Yeah, we'll have to get an alumni match going or something, where we bring everyone back together.
Absolutely.
We forgot Brooke's actually playing in Granada now as well. She plays in the same league as for Granada
Oh
Beathe.
yeah.
And you've got Parker, obviously, that
Okay.
we've left off, that's playing in Barcelona as
Oh
well. So a fantastic group of
yeah, we forgot
players.
them.
Yeah, I know. There's probably someone else we forgot as well, but yeah. So listen, Addy, in terms of we're kind of bringing everything to its conclusion. So you've shared some amazing insight over the course of this podcast, but leave us with a little bit of kind of knowledge, anything in terms of advice that you've learned. And I know you've shared a fair bit over the course of it, but is there anything that really stands out to you that you think is important that you share while we've got you on?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that has helped like switch my mindset is learning that confidence is a practice. And so every single day now I am trying to practice confidence outside of the field. And, we're thinking 24/7, we have these thoughts and we're not really aware of how they're, affecting us mentally. And I've kind of realized, wow, my thoughts are super negative, like on the field. And when I come back home, I'm like, that was like such a shitty practice. Like I messed up, like I'm a bad player. And just taking note of those thoughts and immediately turning them around has brought my confidence up so much. So, I mean, it's been such a practice, but just learning to shift those thoughts can significantly change your game. And yeah, that's something that I'm practicing every day now. And I will continue to practice that because it's been a game changer.
Well, Addy, I just want to say from myself, it's so amazing to see you happy and doing so well. But most importantly, thank you for everything that you've shared. I mean, we could have gone on for another hour in terms of everything that we could mention across the course of your career. But I think you've still got so much left ahead of you. So maybe there'll be a volume 2 after you finish the season to show how well you've done. But thank you so much for your time and being part of this. And yeah, good luck for today. Okay.
Thank you, James. It was good talking to you.